There he is.
Hey, Bob.
How's it going?
Hello,
Hey,
how
John.
John?
Good morning, everybody. How are we doing?
Hey,
All
everybody.
right. Are you
Well-
going to be at the center today, Charles?
Yeah, what?
No.
No? Oh.
Not today, no.
Oh. Okay.
Why would I be at the center today?
I don't know.
I have a class on Friday,
No.
and I need to be
Well,
here
we thought
today.
you'd go, Charles. We thought we'd go just to meet Armando.
No, you're going to meet Lucy.
Yeah.
Okay. You guys can get together and, hang out together as much as you want. Okay.
Yeah.
I personally, have other things I need to do right now, which is
Okay.
be here and, get some stuff
If
done.
you don't want to see, if you don't want to see us, okay, be like that. That's fine.
I'm going to see plenty of you on Friday, Armando.
Only 5.
Only 5?
But I think your class gonna be only 5 people.
Well, in the clay, 6 people in the drawing, and I'm going to see you. I'm going to see you both in the morning and in the afternoon.
Mm.
That's all day long, Armando.
Oh Lord.
Is
But
that
it's not it. But it's not this Friday for me. For me, it's in April.
right? Yes. Yeah, you have to wait a little while, before that kicks in for you. But, yeah, but there will be other people there. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, how are we all enjoying this rather? It's kind of gray, kind of wet.
Yeah, all week we're gonna be like this.
All the above.
Yeah, but has anybody noticed it's not cold?
No, it's not cold. I said, but it will be cold in the weekend. Coming back for Saturday and Sunday thing.
Is it?
Yeah.
Not too cold, but it will be a little bit chill in the morning.
Oh, okay. Well, look, we're in February.
Mhm.
You're not wading through 2 feet of snow. Okay, so be
I like
happy.
to see snow at least once a year.
You can do that. Okay. Anyway, all right. Let's get started. Let's see. We'll reduce that. Okay, and then let's see who's here. It says 7. So Naomi is here twice, actually.
Yes.
How you doing, Naomi?
She's mute.
Okay, yeah, I know. We got Veronica, Bob, John, and mainly it's the guys.
Oh, Veronica's here. What about Miss Bernice?
She's not here yet.
Oh.
So we're going to jump into looking at a variety of different types of art. And somewhere along the line, I'm going to play I think it's about maybe a 10-minute video about the art world and, different aspects of it, mainly how it's been hijacked. But that's a long discussion, but we'll save that toward the end. I wanted to start off, though, first of all, just looking at, is everyone familiar with, we watched a lot of videos by a company called Streamline Publishing. Anybody familiar with that?
No.
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 Okay. Well, it's that guy, Eric Rhodes, who's always doing interviews.
Oh, him, yes.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Well, Streamline Publishing puts out a whole series of magazines. One is Fine Art Connoisseur. The other is Plein Air magazine, right? Which is, in the art world, it's probably one of the most popular magazines out there. They've got a huge subscription list, and they're doing all kinds of interesting things with workshops and, getting artists to, basically get together and have these conventions, and gives you a chance to meet these people and to improve your skills and things like that. So it's kind of interesting. Oh, and Bernice is finally here. Yay, Bernice. So,
Morning, Miss Bernice.
yeah. So
Good
Rick,
morning, good morning. Yeah,
I see
I'm only 3 minutes, 4 minutes late.
yeah, okay, you're good. That's fine.
Mm.
We haven't done too much, thus far, but we're gonna
Okay.
take a look at some artwork. Now, this was the January art competition for Plein Air magazine. Okay, and
Okay.
so I'm just gonna kind of run through there real quick and show you some of the work that's submitted. And the reason I'm going to do that is I want to emphasize to you, keep in mind that, a lot of these people, they're not like big superstars of the art world. They're just normal, everyday people, okay? But, yeah, they're just artists kind of quietly working on their own work, stuff like that. So we're going to take a look at that real quick. And along the way, we might have some discussions about some of these pieces, and I guess, in some ways, why some of you are not putting your work out there.
That is so realistic. I can just bite that.
Yeah, you can cook it, Miss Bernice.
Yeah, well, that's a little bit of bok choy, I think, and yeah, it's a very nice. I'm not exactly sure what the media is. Whether it looks like it's probably oil paint. And again, I don't have all these artists' names because I just went in and picked up images off of their website. But if you go to Plein Air magazine, you could probably go back and look at any of the competitions for any of the months. So really they've really been doing it now for about the last 2 years since the pandemic kicked in. And they've been publishing every month, these competitions. And so, just
There's a
again,
flower.
yeah. I mean, this is kind of an interesting piece because look at the textures, and against, it's generally kind of a monochrome painting, except that they've put that one element in there with all this intense color, right? And that's that one flower.
I'm a lonely petunia in an onion patch.
That always looks like hope to me. You see something pushing up through like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, through like a crack, at a foundation or something like that. Yeah, and it's beautifully done, and I think this is watercolor. And then you contrast it with this piece. Very much so a very kind of tonal painting. You could say it's kind of modernist, almost kind of abstract or decorative, right? Anybody got anything to say about this?
It's nice.
Yeah, like it, hate it, don't know what it is.
That makes me think John should submit his, because some of his watercolor I like a lot better than this.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But if you look at this, if you look at the design, the use of color and composition, it's really a lovely piece, it really is. Here's another piece. Almost abstract.
Like the shadows.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But still very effective at getting kind of the feeling of, woods in the snow, or this piece, very simple in some ways, but the use of color and, composition it's not quite centered, right? It's just a little bit off. But again, it's the use of color and the contrast in here. that really make this, a really lovely piece. Here's another one of these pieces. And again, it's almost abstract. So another still life. So some of these artists, are, they work in a very consistent style. And they submit, most of them will submit like 3 or 4 pieces. And I think the entry fee is like $35, $40.
The previous one, would you call that, those 2 previous ones, would you call that line, some kind of line paint or something like that? Like it's all lines except
Well,
for the flowers.
Yeah, it's not all lines. It's a colored
Except for the
background.
flowers.
Yeah. And I think, if I had to figure out how that was done, I would venture to guess, let me kind of blow this up. You see all those dark lines?
Mm-hmm.
Those are not lines that were drawn on there. There was a dark background underneath, and when they laid the light passage of paint on top, then they took a tool and they cut back through.
Oh,
Dark.
okay.
So it's actually kind of scratched into the surface
Mm-hmm.
of the paint.
Okay.
Yeah, and you can see where the background is coming through
Yeah.
some of the thinner areas, of the painting. So the process, the process in a lot of this is kind of important. It's additive and subtractive both. So, but still, it's that general idea of a vase of flowers, and and it portrays that fairly effectively. Here's very kind of traditional landscape. Whoop, we're going the wrong way with it though. Really nicely painted. Nice simplified shapes. Good values. Things move. Back in the distance, come forward. Using a lot of those things that we've talked about. How the size relationships of your brush strokes and things get larger toward the front, and they're smaller or more blended together as they move back, and that gives you this illusion of depth in here that if you didn't have that contrast in there, this wouldn't work. This is another example. And really kind of the same thing,
Now, how you participate in that competition? You suppose that I make a paint, I want to send it there.
Right. Well, you take a photo of your painting, you go online, and you find the entry page for that competition. You pay your fee, you upload your image, and there you are. And the thing is that they publish, this is never printed, it's always online. But they'll basically every competition, they show everything that was submitted.
Oh, okay.
Everything that was submitted. Okay. Now, in the magazine itself, they'll just print like the top winners, of each of the categories, of which for every month, there's about 30, because they have all these different categories, age group, media, subject matter, goes on forever. Now here's a very kind of contemporary or modernistic sort of approach, but it's also reminiscent of like an impressionist painting, isn't it?
Very much.
Impressionist.
Yeah. Here's a very tight watercolor. you know, very tight watercolor. So, you know,
Mhm.
That's nice.
Yeah.
How he made the door, the gates. That's look at that, the birds.
yeah, there's a lot of really beautiful work in here. You know, I mean that lion, you know, it really,
Mhm.
Mhm.
really nicely done. Now this is a graphite pencil drawing.
Lead it.
Yeah, and if you look at it very closely, you know, it's very well done. You know, a lot of, you know, very soft edges. You know, you really don't see any pencil marks in there, you know, on their own. It's you know, you look at the texture of the fabric on the jacket and on the sweater, and they feel right. You know, this, you know, the coat that she's wearing feels fluffy, you know, and or like it's got a soft texture to it. Same thing with the you know, the collar of the sweater. Little sparrow, you know, stealing some straw out of the broom. Again, you know, really nice piece. You know, folks are riding on a motorcycle. So again, you know, a little more contemporary, a little more modern approach to it. I'd say contemporary, I guess. Same artist, different subject,
I look,
but still using, you know, a lot of the same approaches and techniques in his work. Yeah, I like this guy's work because, you know, a lot of times when you're doing something, you know, a particular subject, sometimes it's a good idea to kind of get out of the box of, you know, how would I normally look at this, and then what can I do with it? Where can I change the angle or the way that I see it in some way to present it, you know, in a way that people don't normally see things, and, you know, could create, you know, a really nice piece of artwork. Definitely into cars. Yeah. So there's a, you know, a landscape, you know, but you're looking at somebody painting water primarily. You know, and the skill level, you know, the skill level of all of these people, you know, it varies widely. You know, there's people here who, you know, are pros at doing this, and then there are people here who, you know, I mean, you know, they're learning how to paint, they're learning how to draw. So you've got, you know, people at all different levels here. This time there was a lot of winter scenes, which, you know, I guess makes sense, you know, since it's, you know, published in January. But some of these are, you know, really nicely done. You know, and, you know, we've talked about, you know, painting beach scenes and scenes by the water and stuff like that. And you look at this and look at the composition of it. You know, how your eye is drawn, you know, across and back, you know, and right to what you would pretty much so perceive as the horizon line back here. So you get the nice sense of depth in there and really pulls your eye back there. Same thing here. Whoop. You know, your focal point is obviously her, but see how, you know, he or she uses these tables, you know, to kind of pull your eye back, you know, into the composition, and then they just kind of move you around. with the use of textures and light and dark patterns, things like that. There's a really nice watercolor. John? Did John take a break? I don't know.
Oh, he walked away.
Maybe. Hey, John, where are you? Okay. I don't know. At any rate, this was done in watercolor. And, you know, I talk a lot about watercolor and people needing to push contrast, right? Light and dark. And this is a beautiful example of, you know, how much contrast you can actually get out of a watercolor. And, you know, I mean, you can really, if you're persistent and you really kind of stick with it, you can really push those darks to be pretty dark. You know, it takes a little more effort than maybe with oil paint or something like that. But watercolor is a medium on its own, you know, is beautiful media to work with. And it's got a lot of advantages in the sense that you can generally use it quickly. There's not a lot of setup. There's not a lot of cleanup. You know, you can travel with it really easily. You know, where in a lot of medias like oil or acrylic, you know, you can't get on a plane with it. So it's kind of a problem, you know, if you're.
Oh, that's a nice picture.
Yeah, it's just a beautiful painting. Yeah, got a really nice mood to it, nice light. Another winter scene.
If you have small tubes or acrylic paint, you can't get on the plane with it.
No.
But what's it, the chemicals or what?
Yeah, it's a combustible material.
Okay.
Which one, the acrylic or the oil?
Oil or acrylics.
Oh,
Well,
so
the acrylics are not so much combustible, but because it's a tube, you know, they're afraid that somebody would, you know, put explosives or something in it, you know, instead of paint.
So you travel the airplane, you have to buy your stuff when you get there where you go.
Actually, what most people do these days is they'll pack up their plein air box and they'll put it in a cardboard box, and then they'll, you know, like overnight ship it or ship it via FedEx.
Oh, ship it, okay.
Yeah, so that when they get there, you know, they'll ship it to their hotel or whatever. They'll make arrangements for their hotel to you know, pick it up or, you know, have it delivered there. Anyway, they'll have it shipped so it's there when they arrive. And then when they're ready to come home, you know, they ship it back. So there's Armando's couch.
Well, this one has.
See, all you need to do, Armando, is you just need to get one of your ladies, you know, just to recline on your couch there for a little while.
Yeah.
Give her some flowers, you know, and hey.
They got flowers for Valentine.
Okay, yeah. Well, you might have to give them flowers to keep them on the couch for a little while.
Mm-hmm.
You know. Another thing I want you guys, you know, to kind of make note of is look at the variety of styles and approaches, you know, to, you know, what people are submitting. You know, it's all over the place. You know, some of it is very tight and representational. Some of it's, you know, very contemporary and modern. You know, a lot of it is very painterly, you know, sort of landscapes, things like that, figures. Yeah. So there's really room out there for all of it. Yeah. But, you know, there's a lot of people out there, you know, just doing really a lot of very, very nice work. I think this is another watercolor. Yeah, very tight, very representational. But if you look at it, okay, you know, at first, it doesn't strike you as a watercolor because generally the values are pretty dark. Yeah. But you can.
Not only that, but the edges are so clean also.
Mhm. Yeah, but I mean that's the thing about watercolor is that, you know, you can really push it and get it dark. You know, it doesn't have to be this light, you know, kind of wispy, ethereal, you know, image. You know, you can actually make them, you know, have a lot of contrast, um, you know, in a lot of range and value. So let's see. Oh, there we go. Okay.
People throw some gouache in there to kind of get some opaqueness to it.
You could. Now, I would caution you against that if you are putting your watercolor pieces in certain art shows.
Right.
So it's like for the Watercolor Society or something like that.
Right. Yeah, they're sticklers.
Yeah. Yeah. If you have any gouache in there whatsoever, or any kind of opaque medium, they won't take it. You know, it's got to be 100% watercolor. You know, they're purists.
Yeah.
You know, that's why I would never submit anything to their shows because I'm not a purist. You know, I came. What did I do? I hit the wrong button. Sorry. You know, like I said, I'm not a purist, and I use whatever is at hand. You know, and if I need something opaque and I happen to have some white gouache or a piece of white pastel or something like that, you know, I'm fine with, you know, putting a little of that on there. Yeah, I really like this painting. Now remember, I've said this several times. Okay, color is irrelevant. Okay. And, you know, this was a perfect example of that. You know, the color has nothing to do with reality, right? And yet, clearly you read that as a landscape, you know, and where the sunlight, where the shadows are. So it's about value and temperature, you know, value and temperature.
The use of complements here is really striking.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you know, it's a beautiful use of color, and you know, there's very little white in any of this. In fact, there is no white on there, period. Everything's mixed down. But it's got this really nice harmonious feel to it, and you know, nice contrast between warm and cool, light and shadow. So if you will all please stop worrying about color, you know. I mean, it's good to know about color, but color is not nearly as important as understanding value and temperature. So you get those two down, you can do almost anything. Yeah, I really like this. I think it's a guy, you know, that had, you know, just a very nice kind of whimsical feel, you know, to his work. And again,
That looks like something that Wonder would have done.
Yeah.
Yeah, the way she does those swirls and stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Not quite reality.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
Yeah, you could draw that analogy there.
Mhm.
See, again, you have somebody who's probably painting either in acrylics or oils,
Mhm.
and at the same time, they're not doing a lot of blending. You know, it kind of reminds me of like Chuck Close's work. How he took the little squares and he made these little circles and stuff, and everything had kind of a clean edge on it, and yet optically it all kind of mixed together. Well, this is doing kind of the same thing in the water. There's just a lot of little shapes in there with varying colors and values and intensity. Yeah. Here's another piece of that one guy's work. And again, it's kind of whimsical, really kind of fun. I think this is the same, maybe the same person who did that landscape, with the non-representational color. Now, a lot of these pieces, that are being submitted to this are, truly, alla prima plein air paintings. So, I mean, they're paintings that were done probably in a couple of hours, on site somewhere. And there is a category just for them. And then there's other categories for, bigger pieces that were done in the studio. And they do differentiate between pieces that were done on site from life and pieces that were done, in the studio, or a combination of it. So, and in a lot of cases, a lot of these pieces of work that you're seeing, some of these paintings are not much bigger than like 5x7, 6x9, particularly, things like this that look a little bit looser and a little more painterly.
That's nice.
Yeah. Yeah, real nice, direct painting method. And it's all about controlling, those values, temperatures, intensities, edges. Another, I'm pretty sure this is a watercolor piece. Just looking at it. I mean, it could possibly be acrylic that's being kind of used like watercolor. Everybody see what's going on here? So you got all the cows hanging out up under the trees and the sunlight breaking through. Cool to that. They really kind of got that effect, really kind of nicely. Is it a tight representational painting? No. But it still works. It still gets the idea across. Now it's one of those tight pieces.
Flowers again.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Oh, that's nice. I
Yeah.
like flowers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can you
Yeah.
And I,
Mhm.
Bernice.
Well done.
Hmm?
You see
And
the
I-
leaf where the bug are eating, how he did it real nice.
Oh yeah, the leaf at the bottom. I see that.
Yeah.
That's an interesting touch. It adds a lot,
Mm-hmm. Okay,
Some of the
Bernice,
the bug
you were going
eat
to ask me to do something. What do you want me to do?
I was?
Well, it sounded like you were.
Oh no, I just said
You said
another
totally
flower.
you, and then
I just said another flower. That's all.
oh, okay.
Mhm.
I thought I heard you say, you know, could you, and then you got cut off. So,
Oh,
We can draw that flower.
no, we can't.
No, we can.
Armando hadn't had enough flowers. Yeah. Now I want you
Hey,
to
I
look
love flowers.
yeah, now I want you to look at this piece real carefully, okay? And in particular, I want you to look at the colors. You know, when you look at it at first, it all looks kind of monochromatic, kind of gray, brownish, right? But then you start looking more closely at the kind of cooler blues and violets, the reds, the yellows, the oranges in there, and you know, little touches of color.
You distance from the paint, the color on those three get kind of darker.
I'm sorry.
Even
what?
here, I mean, I'm here looking at the computer. If I look closer, those three, the color look lighter, but if I back on myself, the color of those three look darker.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. But
Yeah,
notice how they differentiate, you know, the tree branches here that are very similar, very close in value from the background.
Mm-hmm.
You still see this tree trunk, even though a lot of this is almost exactly the same value as what's behind it.
Mm-hmm.
And the way
the
they do
shade.
that,
Oh,
yeah, but the way they do that is that they, you know, they put some of these other warmer paint passages in there, you know, almost not quite red, right? It's very muted down, but something very warm against generally a kind of a cooler background, right? So they're using temperature, you know, and, you know, the contrast in those color families, red to green are direct complements, right? And that makes that tree branch, you know, and all these tree trunks and things sit forward and come in front of all of this stuff back here. So. Nicely done painting though.
Yeah.
You know, pretty simple composition and design. You know, and then you come into this piece, right? And it's a lovely painting. And when I was looking at it, it's fairly large. You know, I think it's like 60 inches tall. So it's like 5 foot. Now I have a problem with this painting though. Anybody know what my problem with this painting is?
no.
It's kind of centered.
Yeah, a little bit, you know. I mean, the dead center of this is really, you know, kind of about right here. So, you know,
Oh, okay.
these guys are a little above it. But actually, no, my big problem with this painting is in depth. They've done like 95% of it is done just right. And then, you know, this being the focal point, you know, right in this area, you know, you look at the degree of contrast and the value in here, it's really pretty good. But then they back this up and they, you know, the value of these trees and the trees here are very close to this ridge running right behind it. And in fact, the intensity of the color in this ridge right here makes it kind of distracting and kind of pushes them together almost like they're one thing, rather than it sitting back behind it. And so my problem with this particular piece is they really needed to mute, you know, the color down in this ridge that's back behind there, you know, so that this would really sit forward. You know, they've done it fairly successfully back here with these greens and things, you know, and those will sit back. But these reds and oranges in here, particularly the lights, you know, they're just way too intense and they want to pull forward.
It almost looks like it's hanging on the top.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Rather than moving back in space, you know, I mean, it's a nice painting. It really is, you know, but, you know,
One thing that kind of bothers me a little bit too, since you brought that up with is that the fact the clouds almost look tangential to the top, that long ridge along the top.
yeah.
And because you've got clouds on the right-hand side next to the trees that are below, looks like below the tree line, just back a ways.
Yeah.
And it looks like the cloud looks like it seems like the clouds ought to be kind of covering that ridge a little bit more than what they are. I don't know.
Yeah. 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 That's another solution is, and you don't have to make it totally disappear, but just scumbling over
Yeah.
that ridge right there would push it back, you know, a little
Right.
bit, and also push it down so that you feel like you're elevated over it. And I mean, there's lots of things that they could have done. You know, and it's just a little thing, but it would make a huge difference in painting.
There's an awful lot going on in that painting, that's for sure.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. No, it's a very complicated painting. You know? So, you know, and then again, now if you look at this, it looks very much so like a Western scene that Georgia O'Keeffe could have painted.
I thought so.
Yeah, or I'm trying to think of his name, Rockwell Kent. You know, so it looks like something that was probably painted like in the 20s or the 30s. It's got that very stylized, you know, simplified graphic approach, you know, to the landscape. You know, still really beautiful use of color and stuff. Yeah, there's another piece. So as I was saying, you know, there's all kinds of styles, all kinds of approaches in here.
Charles, how could we get on this? I missed the first part. Where did you get all these paintings?
It came off of a website, okay? It's Plein Air Magazine. And this is their January competition.
Oh, it's their competition.
Yeah. And so these are all the pieces of work that were submitted, okay? Not all of them. Because, I mean, literally, I think they had like 700 or 800 pieces that were submitted. And I probably downloaded, you know, maybe 100, 150 of them.
Well, we could see all of them. Is that it?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah,
That's
you can go.
fabulous.
Yeah, you can go online, and not just for January. You can go all the way back to like 2017 or 18 when they started doing this. Okay.
So it's the Plein Air Magazine.
Yeah, Plein Air Magazine. Yeah, and this is their
fabulous.
January of 2022 competition. This is the latest and greatest, okay? And like I was telling everybody earlier, okay, if you look at this, there's work at all kinds of different levels, and there's all kinds of different styles. And there's no reason that some of you couldn't be submitting your work, you know, to competitions like this. Yeah. Because, I mean, some of you are doing really nice work, you know, and it's like, why not? Here's a watercolor that another one of those watercolors I wanted to show John. John, are you here again?
Yes, I'm back. Sorry, I had to leave.
Okay. Yeah, I know you had to go get a sandwich or something like that.
Yeah, phone call, actually.
Yeah. Anyway, you know, but you look at the use of the watercolor and you can see the paper, and you know that this is not a big piece. You know, this is a kind of smaller to medium, probably about the size range that you're working at. You know, like 9 by 12 or something like that, and you know, but it's really nicely handled. You know, so just sand dunes. You know, simple kind of composition.
No, on that one, the middle ground is sort of the focal point, correct?
Yeah, yeah, I would say really right here.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's where your eye kind of goes to, and then you kind of move around in there. But yeah, it keeps going back to really this area right here where the highest contrast is. Want to, makes you want to go walk over that sand dune.
Yes.
Water. That would kind of be the idea. Another really well done piece. Really beautifully painted. Nice concept and idea. A guy in his shop. Sitting there working away. So. Another watercolor. But again, it's like in these landscapes and things, the thing I want you to, or really, any kind of like street scene, landscape, urban, urban or rural. Notice how they use the differentiation, of areas like, down here at the bottom. You see the texture and the contrast in this area, and how the shapes are a little more defined, and then as it moves back, things get more simplified. And they don't show you blades of grass back here. They put a little color in there to kind of suggest that there's different types of grass or different heights or levels of it, but they're not sitting there making lots of little individual paint strokes. But it really helps to kind of create this sense of depth, in the painting by changing that
To me,
shape.
now that background looks almost the same intensity, though, isn't it? Or am I just seeing that?
Actually, the middle ground right here seems to be
Right.
more intense than the foreground. Okay. And does it really bother me? It, not really, because this being as intense as it is really kind of draws your eye, back past these rocks, right back to you.
Right.
And this area seems to be the focal point, really, to me. This is, it's in the foreground, but it's not where they want you to get stuck at. They want you to move right on back here, into this area. So.
Yeah, well, there's even more contrast back there with the rock on that
Mhm.
edge.
Yeah, and like the highest degree of contrast is at this point right here.
Right.
Yeah, where this rock and this dark come together. But again, this is a watercolor, and they got it, really pretty dark, really high contrast.
That's very, very nice.
Yeah, so they don't have to look, kind of milk toast and watered down and kind of wimpy. They can, you can really get some very nice color out of watercolor. Here's another one of those alla prima, kind of small, probably like 5x7, something like that. But look at all the stuff that's not really going on there. Okay. There's a lot of suggestions that things are going on, right? A street, an umbrella, a couple of cafe tables with people sitting at them. And you can kind of see off a bigger building, back in the distance back here. So that it's kind of this alley or, small little alleyway kind of cafe. And, it's in an urban setting. But there's nothing there. It's just little, little dabs of paint. And yet it all kind of falls together and becomes this image, right? It's the illusion.
That's why you call it impressionist.
Oh, yes.
Well, this wouldn't really. I mean, I guess you could say that it's kind of an impressionistic style. Not really, though. It's just more of an alla prima painting. It's based on shape and value more than anything else. If this was an impressionistic painting, you'd see lots of little paint strokes in there. And you don't. All these are very direct and very kind of broad. Just kind of laid in there and then leave it alone. you know, move on. Now this is you know, again, you know, there's all levels of people here, and you know, it's kind of a fun piece. It's got kind of a weird overhead perspective. You know, you're kind of like you're up in a tree almost, looking down. You know, at the beach and the chair and the umbrella, or umbrellas. And I haven't quite figured this out yet. You know, I think it's a guy who's supposed to be fishing, but you know.
Yeah, but he have an umbrella
Yeah.
under the trees.
Yeah. Well, you know, sunlight, you know, is going to get in your eyes eventually. So you got to have those there.
Yeah.
Again, you know, very small, you know, but and probably very direct, quick, a la prima painting. You know, probably again, not much over 5x7, 6x9, something like that. No, but real simplified, but it works. You know, you can see, you know, the umbrella in the back, you know, the yard, the fence, so you get a sense of what it is. You know, pretty nice figure.
Mhm.
Now I've got some issues with this one too. You know, I mean, they did a beautiful job, you know, on the flowers. But I can't for the life of me figure out whether she's sitting in that chair or whether she's standing in front of it. I'm assuming she's sitting in it.
Yeah, because her elbow is on an arm of the chair.
Chair, yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's something about it that doesn't quite feel comfortable, you know, or right about it. I don't know.
He's looking at the cell phone.
Yeah, she's, you know, she's a millennial.
I think it's the chair, because if you look at the arms of the chair, it
Mhm.
may be a little off there.
Yeah, I don't, you know, I guess if I were going to do that, I would probably put her in the chair, and I would probably eliminate some of these flowers or move them, you know, rearrange them so they're not going right over and covering like a third of her body and stuff. So you could kind of figure out what's going on there, because it is a bit awkward. You know, when I first looked at this, I totally missed the chair. I just thought she was standing there, you know, next to the flowers. In fact, I thought she was maybe like cutting some flowers or something. And when I went back and looked at it again, you know, it's like, no, okay, there's a chair back there. She's got to be sitting in it.
And the question is how far back from the flowers is she? Because why would you put a chair
Right
facing where it is?
Yeah. It seems like it's sitting right in the middle of the flowers to me too.
Yeah, composition I think is the issue in this one.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
it could be composition. It could be also, you know, maybe if he or she had lowered the intensity of the chair and the figure and then pushed these greens even further back, okay, it may have worked, you know. But all the intensity and everything is a little too close all in here, and everything feels like it's all sitting on top of each other. So
These are just entries. They're not necessarily accepted, or are they accepted as?
well, no, everything is accepted,
Oh, okay.
but not everything gets an award or gets published in the actual magazine.
Yeah.
It gets published on the website.
Okay.
See, you know. So, you know, like I've submitted a couple pieces, you know, to this competition in the past, and my pieces are still online, you know, on those pages. If you go look them up, you know, you can find them, and they'll be there as long as the internet's up and running. So, you know, again, you know, here's a nice kind of rendition of water and trees, you know, giving you some depth and distance in there. And it's got got a bit of an atmospheric feel to it. It's really kind of nicely done. You know, here's some of those crazy flowers again.
This.
Yeah, see all kinds of flowers. Now you see, you know, what they've done here is they've taken a particular type of flower. They've looked at it from different angles. They created a composition, you know, that's got a lot of movement and activity in it, and you know, nice sense of light. Where does your eye go, you know, in this? What do you think the focal point is?
The flowers in the middle.
You're talking about right here?
Uh-huh.
Yeah. See, my eye doesn't go there. My eye goes here. Right there. So, yeah, because they've got more intensity of the color and stuff right here.
Uh-huh.
Now what's competing with it and kind of flattening it out is the intensity of this blue back here as well. So if they would have just taken that down just a little bit, that would have been the strongest area of contrast in color. So water lilies, you know, we've never seen them painted like that before, right? Not. Yeah, very much so, you know, like Claude Monet. Same basic approach. I thought this was kind of a fun and interesting painting. Somebody's cat sitting in the window behind the curtain. So sunset, probably sunrise. Could be a seascape, could be a landscape. Yeah. She's clearly at the.
That's nice.
Yeah. Yeah, when you go through these, you know, I mean, like this painting. You know, it's like the more you look at it, you know, the more things you pick out in it, and it's really a nice little painting, and it's not big, you know, but it's really nicely handled. You know, just you know the control of the brush strokes and things. But again, you know, very simplified shapes, but it all kind of fits together. You know, into an image, you know, that's really readable. I don't like this one as much as I did the one.
No, I don't either. I agree. That's nice.
Yeah, it's a nice idea. They, you know, for a little girl, they kind of made her look kind of old. That's easy to do with kids.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's really, you know, it's a lovely piece. If you look at it, just capturing the light and the mood, and how the buildings, you know, the interiors of the buildings and the glass is, you know, illuminated, so that you can tell that it's, you know, just, you know, it's not like midnight dark, but it's like, you know, right after dusk, and you know, all the lights in the buildings are on. There's a fairly typical California land/seascape. The reason I say it's California is because if you look at the flowers, those are poppies.
Puppies. Yeah.
Now this is kind of a monochrome piece. You know, the color is really subdued in it. Yeah, but it works. You know, Works really well. There's another very small, plein air piece. And all the brushwork is very simplified, but still, the illusion is there, the water, the trees, the whole bit. Another sunset. This is one of one that I really love. And this is actually a painting of a U.S. Coast Guard vessel. It's the Mackinac that's up in the Great Lakes. I know that boat.
Been there, done that, huh?
Well, actually, I've never been on the Mackinac, but I was on the USCG Storis, which is a sister ship, same size, class, almost the exact same ship. Yeah, nice control of light and intensity of the color and value, everything. Yeah, just really well painted little piece. Really like this one too. How they push the color, that blue violet against those kind of yellow green. Really nice. It's got a lot of life to it. This one, I like the color in it. Doesn't quite pull it off as well for me though. Now this piece I like as well. Just because of the intense color, the contrast against. Look at all of the. If you look at it, it's almost half and half between pretty strong intense color and these neutrals that are kind of mid-tone to dark. So
They sneak that little reflection of in the window into the darker areas, which I thought was kind of clever.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Another beach scene. So, I mean, it's like each one of these, you could kind of go through and get ideas and learn from. It's like, okay. That's maybe I'll try, not necessarily copying that exact thing, but maybe I'll go out and I'll look for a doorway, or, back at my back door at the patio or something, maybe I'll set up some pots or something and, look at a composition like that. Yeah, that's the thing. You can borrow from these, ideas and things like that. And particularly, of course, you want to borrow from the ones that work really well. Now, John, are you here still?
I'm here.
There we go. This one's for you. There's a piece of architecture. Now, this is, technically, you would kind of categorize this as what they call a vignette, right? You know that there's more buildings over here and over here, but it's kind of like they've shown you what was in the shadow, and then the sunlight's basically blowing out everything to the left and right of it. So,
Do you think that some of these are just the studies that they brought into the studio then, or do you think that's all they did was that?
No, I think that's all they did. This is probably, done on site, from life. Yeah, it doesn't look like.
Yeah, but a lot of times they're more like a study that you take into the studio to develop into.
Yeah, I mean, you could use this. You could use this as, kind of a like you said, a study for a more finished painting.
Right.
You could. The thing is, and I do that a lot with landscapes and stuff, but you always miss something. You know, when even if you're using photography in the same spot, everything else, you've got your color, you know, your actual little study that you painted there. Oftentimes, those little studies have more energy and life than that finished piece. You know, just because just because you've lost that connection with being at that place.
Right, right.
And you know, I've said this many times, but there really is something magical about looking at something and being there with it and painting it, and you capture an energy in a way of what you're working on that you won't get from taking a photograph of it and then being in the studio. You know,
Why would that be plein air? I thought plein air had to be done outdoors.
well, plein air is outdoors. You know what I'm.
But this is like a setup still life.
Well, yeah, but you see, it's Plein Air magazine, but they have all kinds of categories.
Oh, okay.
They have both studio work, plein air work. You know, they have an award for oils, award for watercolor, pastels, just about any media you can think of.
Okay.
You know, and even age categories. You know, things for like old folks who are like over 60 or 65, and and for young, if you're under 17 or 18, there's a category for you. You can submit work. Personally, the way they do it, I wouldn't say it's a scam. It's but they're trying to maximize the money that they can make on a submission, because you can take any of your pieces and you can submit it into multiple categories, but for like a certain amount of money you get like four submissions. Anything over that you have to pay like an extra $5 for it or something. And in going through this, I left a lot of pieces out. I didn't download everything. But the reason I did it is that, you had a lot of people who were submitting 8 or 10, paintings to, 10 different categories. And, so you would have ended up, with all of their work. So I tried to kind of pick and choose as I went through. So nice sense of light, shadow.
Can you go? Oh,
Can I go? Can I go where?
back to where the flower is,
You mean the one that was sitting on the,
right there. Mhm.
okay.
Okay.
Why, you want to take a screenshot of that?
I got it.
Okay. All right. All right. So here, okay, you might ask yourself what's going on. Is this the adventure of Gulliver's Travels? It looks like it, doesn't it?
That's what I was gonna say. Gulliver as a youth.
Yeah. 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 He's got a little backpack on, or with him, and he's stranded out there on this island with a fairly good sized rock and some very tiny trees. He's either very big or everything is really shrunk down on that island. So you look at it and you scratch your head and wonder. But that's kind of the point. It's to get you to stop and really look at it, and scratch your head and wonder. So.
George O'Keefe again here, huh?
A bit, yeah. Yeah, I kind of have issues with this piece, Well, I've got a whole range of things. To me, I know she's holding a flower, right? But those flowers in scale are not that big, you know, and so you would actually see, you know, the girl's hands holding the end of the skull and the flower, and they've enlarged that flower so much, you know, that they're basically covering up the hands, which save them time in trying to paint hands, which are not easy all the time.
This sort of a surrealism effect.
Yeah, kind of, you know, kind of like the kid standing on the island. I think it's the same artist, actually.
In the artist's mind is probably a lot of symbolism here.
I would think so.
Well, and yeah, I mean, to them, you know, it has a particular meaning. So, but yeah, just looking, there's something, you know, there's a lot of it that's really nice and works pretty well, but then there's parts of it that just don't quite do it. So, yeah. Now this I thought was kind of a lovely piece. You know, just the idea of losing the figure and all that red, so that, you know, the flesh tones pop out, and then kind of the underlying texture and pattern that runs all through that red area, you know, in flowers. So, you know, now there's a piece that's a little different, right? Very kind of contemporary, modern fish, and it looks like it's actually been sort of imprinted. You know, like they had laid down some gel medium or something and actually, you know, like imprinted a fish, you know, into it, and then maybe even put in like a glass eye so that it's a mixed media piece. So,
Think that's palette knife?
pardon?
I think that it was palette.
You're breaking up. Do I
Yeah,
think?
I know. You think it was palette knife?
Oh, no. I think they may have laid down like some gel medium or something with a pellet knife, like a real thick layer. But it looks like they actually took a fish and put it into the gel medium, you know, to get kind of like a casting or an imprint. You know, that's kind of the way I read it.
Okay.
You know, and that's what I was looking at is, you know, sort of the texture and stuff of it. Because it's definitely got an underlying texture, and then they've come back in and, you know, added like, you know, finer lines to kind of create almost like a drawing over the texture. So, you know, different ways of working. Yeah. Nice.
Charles,
Yes.
Charles,
Yeah.
I search Planner magazine, but they don't have any thing to find the exhibition for the during the year.
Okay. Go to Google.
Yeah, I went to the Google.
Okay. All right. Put in January 2022
Okay.
art competition for Plein Air magazine.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Okay. I'll bet you'll find it. Okay. Yeah. Sometimes on the website you start finding stuff, and a lot of times you'll just find like the winners. And the page that I found it on, they showed the winners, and it was kind of hard to find, but it was really right up at the top, and it said the rest of the submissions or whatever. It was like in a banner, and you just click on the banner and it will take you to another page with everything that got submitted. So you got to kind of look around a little bit sometimes. So at any rate, how are we doing time-wise?
Thank you.
Okay. Did it come up?
Sorry.
Azam, did it come up? Did you find it?
I try to find it.
Oh,
I
okay.
am slow.
Oh,
Sorry.
yeah. All right. So yeah, here's, again, probably not a big piece, but really nicely painted, very direct. Nice use of modifying the color and keeping, intensities and things, where he wants it. So yeah, there's, like I said, there's a lot of nice stuff in here. We've got a lot that we could go through. Oh, here you go. Definitely not a plein air piece, right?
Not at all.
Not at all. Okay. And I don't even know that they have a category for this. Okay. But, somebody submitted it. Okay. It's fine. Yeah, it's in there. So.
You wanted to see me after class? Yes, I just noticed that there's been a problem spot in this unit in which you are failing. So just do me.
Okay, we had something going on in the back. Now here's some watercolors that I wanted to share with you too. And again, if you look at this, it's very stylized. It's very simplified. They're not trying to do every little leaf and petal. They're looking at simplifying shapes and laying in that watercolor, but it's got this very kind of soft feel to it. Really like, all these pieces. This is a beautiful piece. Just the use of color and the design, composition, how they put everything in there and where. So yeah, like I said, there's a lot of nice work in here, and we could keep on for days and days with this, but I have two other artists. Well, yeah, two other artists I want to share with you. All right, so that was Plein Air Magazine, and if you guys are curious, I'll try to find a link to that if you want me to, and I'll send it out. Okay, now my computer is thinking about closing this. I don't know why. Okay, there we go. So yeah, I think I'm going to show you. Actually, what I want to show you first is I want to show you. I want to play a video, and then after we get the video, we'll go back and we'll look at another artist. Okay. Now this video, you may, you may find it a little bit disturbing, right? It's talking about art, and as you'll see from the title, okay, where is it? Yeah, art, world's biggest scam, something like that. And this is a young woman who puts out videos on YouTube fairly often, and she's got some interesting thoughts, but for most of us, who are involved in using art, as an outlet, to be creative. Some of us are, making, somewhat of a living off of it or something. We don't fall into the category that she's talking about. And, what's happened over time, if you go through art history, is, at first, art was being created for, kings, queens, whoever was in power. And, there were artisans and craftsmen their livelihoods depended on those people. And then you went, and the church became the main patron. And then somewhere, right around the middle to late Renaissance, you had artists beginning to break away and do work for, what would be, considered commoners or, middle-class people. There was a whole class of people all of a sudden who had some sense of wealth. It wasn't like the ultra-rich and the ultra-poor. So, and then time went on, and that held. There was a growing middle class. People collected art. People had things created, for their homes and things like that. Did commissions, and that gave artists a route of making a viable living, right? And so that's pretty much so held up until present. And really within about the last 20 to 30 years, a lot has happened in the actual, art world, if you want to call it that. And so I'm going to play this video for you and just, kind of make note.
Earth is something that's hidden perfectly in plain sight. It's an illusion that everyone has heard about.
Let me see.
One of the biggest scams that exist on planet Earth is something that's hidden perfectly in plain sight. It's an illusion that everyone has heard about, but something that almost nobody knows the truth about. The industry this scam takes part in has been called one of the most manipulated markets in the world. And no, it's not banking, the oil industry, or the media, but it's an industry that allows some of the richest people on the planet to escape paying taxes using some of the most sneaky practices you can imagine. That industry is art. Before I get into this video, just a quick disclaimer. I do believe that there are practices available to everybody that allow us to legally reduce our tax, and these things can be utilized if you so choose to do so. However, what doesn't sit right with me is when there are certain systems and practices created that are only there available to the very, very top players and not to the rest of us. And so this video is to uncover some of these systems and to show you that there are certain things in the world that are nothing more than extremely well-crafted narratives in order to make you believe something about a topic when really it's been designed for a completely different purpose. And the world of fine art is a perfect example of this. So with that out of the way, let's dive into the world of very expensive art and how it's manipulated to suit the elite. Before I go any further, just letting you know, we have an amazing newsletter that people genuinely rave about. So if you want to find out what the buzz is all about, there is a link in the bio. Okay, so how do the ultra-rich use the world of fine art in order to avoid paying taxes? Well, it's actually quite simple. When I first heard about it, it blew my mind because it was not complicated. It was very straightforward. For this scam to work, you first got to own some very expensive art. But here's the problem. If you just go out and buy a $10 million painting, that will mean you've got to actually spend that amount of money to buy the art. And we don't want to do that. We want as much of our money as possible staying in our bank accounts. So what do? Well, instead, you just make a $10 million painting. And here's how you do it. First, you have to find yourself an artist, someone up and coming that has a history of creating art. Maybe this artist has a few paintings being displayed in a small local art gallery, but they definitely haven't broken into the mainstream luxury art world just yet. You feel like the artist has potential, but what you really care about is their potential to save you millions of dollars in tax money. So what you do is you buy a few of their paintings, and for the sake of the illustration in this video, let's say you spend $10,000 in total for a few of their paintings. Great, you have yourself some art and it hasn't cost you a fortune. However, you want it to cost you a fortune so you can use it as a tax write-off. This is the point where you call in some of your friends for help. Because you're unbelievably rich, you're connected to a lot of people in the high-end art world. People like gallery owners, art critics, the appraisers, the kind of people that decide what art is worth a lot and what art isn't. Your art appraiser friend could hypothetically value the new painting you just bought at $10 million because that's what they do for a living. But if they do that for a new nobody artist without a name, they might lose credibility. Basically, you have got to make this artist appear as if their art would be worthy of being sold for a really high price point. So this is the part where we have to make the artist famous and we have to boost the value of what their art is perceived at. So let's hype them up a little bit, shall we? To get the artist's name out there, you hire a publicist who gets them interviewed in magazines and gets them featured in news and art journals. With the help of your art industry friends, you host some events in bigger galleries, getting the new artist's work in front of people that matter. Before long, people are starting to recognize the artist's work. They're not Da Vinci, but certain people in art circles at least know their name. And now that the artist's work is in some bigger galleries, people start buying their art at higher prices. Sure, making this happen for the artists costs you a little bit of money, but that's no problem because this is all about to pay off for you in a big way. If all of a sudden you're watching this and you just have this unexplainable urge to become an artist, and you might not be the best artist, but you just want to hone your skills, I have the perfect solution for you. Thank you, Skillshare, for sponsoring this video. Skillshare is an online learning community with thousands of inspiring classes for creators. Explore new skills, deepen existing passions, and get lost in creativity. Class topics on Skillshare include illustration, graphic design, photography, film and video, marketing, productivity, freelance and entrepreneurship, web development, and so much more. It's curated specifically for learning, meaning that there are no ads and they're constantly adding premium classes so you can stay focused and follow wherever your creativity takes you. Whether you're a dabbler, a pro, a hobbyist, or a master, you are a creative. Discover what you can make with classes for every skill level. The first 1,000 of my subscribers to click the link in the description will receive 1 month worth of Skillshare for free so you can start exploring your creativity today. Okay, so now the artist looks a lot more credible. They look hot.
So hot right now.
People are starting to talk about them and they are sharing their work on social media and there is serious buzz around their work. And for you, it only cost you some chump change of a couple of $100,000. So now that is out of the way, it is time to get your art industry friends to start working for you. Now that the new artist's name is buzzing in the art world, your art appraiser friend can get to work valuing some of their paintings, of course, for a small fee on their behalf. And wouldn't you know it, one of the paintings you bought for $10,000 when the artist was unknown is now worth $10 million. This is because the artist isn't unknown anymore. The name is out there and the work is in demand. This kind of price manipulation in the art industry is extremely common and, as journalist Alison Schrager puts it, would be illegal in most other industries. And because of the price manipulation, you now have a painting worth $10 million that's been certified by a professional in the industry who's willing to validate its price. Excellent. So now you have yourself a $10 million painting and it's cost you roughly, let's say, $250,000. So now you put the final piece of that tax-saving power play into action. And we do this by giving away our expensive painting. Governments of many countries love it when people are charitable, and in many cases will give them a tax break for donating their assets. So at this point, I'm sure I don't have to explain to you what you do with your now newly valuable painting. But in case you're not following along, yep, you would just donate that $10 million painting to a charity of your choice. And voila! Your tax-saving scam is now complete. So in this example, you've hypothetically spent $10,000 on a painting and then an extra couple of $100,000 on fees to promote the artist's work and fees for the art industry friends. But by spending that money, you've essentially saved yourself $9 million plus in tax every single year. And you can rinse and repeat this as much as you like to bring your tax bill down to zero. Making more money? No problem. Just artificially inflate some more art and then donate it to a charity of your choice. And so this is just one example of how corrupt and controlled the fine art world actually is. But are you interested in going down a little bit deeper into the rabbit hole? I'm so glad you asked. Just quickly, if you're finding this information really interesting, like, comment, and share so that more people are aware of this craziness. In the example I just gave of using the fine art world in order to dodge taxes, it only really works if everybody is on the same page in the industry. So we're talking art gallery owners, we're talking appraisers, we're talking art dealers, and a ton of other people. Because of this, the fine art world keeps itself quite a tight-knit community. You might think that if you've got the money, you can just walk in and buy a super expensive painting off a gallery wall. Well, not so fast. For example, the actor Daniel Radcliffe, who played Harry Potter, is rich, very rich. It's estimated that his net worth is around $110 million. But even he can't buy whatever art he wants. A few years ago, he tried to buy a multi-million-dollar painting by the artist Jim Hodges. But Radcliffe was rejected by the art dealer, who said he was waiting for someone more prestigious to buy the painting. What the dealer really meant was that he wanted someone who was a known art collector to buy it because that would help drive up future prices of the artist's work, or potentially, even more shady, someone who was part of the huge underground network of money laundering that serves those in the fine art world. In the art world, Radcliffe is basically a nobody. He's not part of the big boys club where they all help each other out. But do you want another example? What if you are a legitimate art collector and you actually really do want to buy a very expensive painting? Let's say that there is a painting worth $50 million that you have your eye on. But the problem is, if you buy that painting, it means that you're going to then have to pay sales tax on that painting. And you don't want to do that. Well, good news, there is a solution for that as well. If you've seen the movie Tenet, you probably know that it was pretty much completely fiction except for one big tax-saving detail. In the movie, the protagonist enters a free port in Norway, which contains a lot of interesting stuff, including a load of fine art. In the real world, free ports definitely exist. They're basically high security warehouses that exist all around the world and are special tax-free zones that rich people can stash their stuff in. So if you just happen to buy a super expensive painting at auction and have it delivered to a free port, you'll never need to pay sales tax on it, or any other tax for that matter. In fact, one free port in Switzerland is estimated to hold over $100 billion in art for some of the richest people in the world. Art they don't even have to pay tax on. Free ports have been called the greatest museums nobody can ever see. A quote that came from Jean-Luc Martinez, the director of the Louvre in Paris. So basically, whenever you hear next the story of some super expensive painting or other art piece selling for an insane amount of money, just stop and think twice, because it could be a legitimate sale. Or it could be a rich person who has completely gamed the system to help line their friends' pockets, or to save them a ton of money in taxes. Taxes that your government has to get from somewhere to pay for everything that we enjoy in developed society. So instead of getting it from the rich art lovers, they get it from you instead. Is it legal? Yes. Is it fair? Definitely not. If you enjoy this video and you find it valuable, please make sure you like, comment, and share it around so more people know about it. Also, we have an amazing newsletter. People rave about it. Link in bio. And if you're interested in finding...
Okay. Anybody got any thoughts about that?
Yeah, I'm going to run out and buy myself a $10 million painting tomorrow, I think.
Well, if you had $10 million to go buy the painting, yes. You know.
No, he may.
You know, but the thing, I think the point was that, you know, the person who's going to, you know, they're not going to buy a $10 million painting. You know, they're going to go buy, they're going to go find some artist, you know, who does, you know, reasonably good work or work that they like. And then they're going to buy their art, and then they're going to make an investment in that artist to promote them as an up-and-coming artist. You know, and then of course, you know, if they have a large art collection and they have connections to people in the art world, they're going to get their friends to help elevate the name of that artist and get more buzz about it, so that, say that $1,000 painting you bought all of a sudden, you know, not all of a sudden, but, you know, maybe over a couple of years is now worth, you know, like 150,000 or maybe $1 million, right? You know, that's a pretty good return on your investment, wouldn't you think?
Yes. Oh, yes.
Yeah, and so you had a very, you know, you had a very minimal, you know, expense. You know, of course, would I go out and buy a $1,000 painting? Not
No.
very often. You know, if
What
that,
about the artist?
you know, because I
Do
couldn't
they get
really
it?
afford it. But you know, if you had, you know, a couple of million stashed in the bank somewhere, you could afford to do that. You know,
Mm.
and promote that artist, and
Hello there.
make the art that you have in your collection worth a lot more.
Good. How you doing?
But do the artists get any of that money?
No,
Nope. Nope.
Oh, you didn't?
no, not.
And your sister did.
Yeah, Bernice, I'm going to mute you. There we go. Yeah, she's on the phone with somebody or something.
Yeah.
The answer is directly no. Okay.
But that's not good.
Well, I mean, they get the initial $1,000, right? Okay.
Yeah.
But if the value of their work goes up substantially and their name gets out there, guess what they're going to do? They're going to start selling more art, right? And as they sell more art, because their art is worth, $1 million or $10 million or whatever, they're going to start getting those kinds of prices when they sell their art. See? So the artist gets more money at that point, as they become more established in their career. So yes, I mean, eventually, people like Damien Hirst, I mean, they didn't start off being rich. Yeah, they're rich now because you've got people paying them, 10, 20, 30, 40, $50 million, for a piece of their artwork. So they've become, extremely wealthy. Same thing happened to Pablo Picasso, right?
For example, you sell a paint, let's say, in $1,000 now.
Mm-hmm.
The person who buy it
Right.
in a couple of years can sell it in $10,000. You should get something from that.
No,
No,
no, doesn't work that way. Sorry. Yeah, no, once you sell a painting, you sold the painting. They own that painting. It's their property.
If I sell it with a contract.
Yeah, well, what kind of contract are you going to sell it?
I'm going to tell the guy, you're going to resell it later on, and you're going to make, I want to list 10% of that.
Yeah. I don't think that most people would find that a attractive selling point, right? Or buying point. I mean, if you were going to purchase a piece of artwork, and let's say you were going to pay an artist $1,000, and they said, well, okay, so if you or some of your family members further down the line ever sell this painting and get, a lot more money for it, then I want 10% of that. See, I mean, that seems a bit cumbersome, somebody buying a piece of artwork. Yeah. So you're basically going to scare some of your clientele away, who are not going to go for that. Okay. I mean, maybe somebody would, but here's the thing. A lot of, in the current art world as it is, both artists as well as collectors, there's a certain level of them where, they're buying artwork as an investment. They never intend to hang it in their house. A lot of them never intend to ever see it. And they store it away in these, what they call free ports, as a tax write-off. So, and I think her point, and I think,
so you don't have to pay taxes for that?
Pardon?
If I buy a painting from you now for $1,000 and a couple of years and sell it for $3,000 or $5,000, I don't have to pay taxes for that.
If that painting was not hanging on your living room wall, if it in fact was sitting inside of a free port, and you sold it to somebody else, and they, and you sold it to them while it was in that free port, you would not have to ever pay taxes on that.
Why do you call it free port?
Because it's a tax-free zone.
Oh.
And there are places in Europe and, well, different countries of the world.
Caribbean also.
Huh?
Yeah. The Caribbean also, there's several.
Caribbean, yeah. Yeah, they have what they call.
But what about inside United States?
Well, if you sold it within the United States doesn't have a free port. So if you sell it here, you're going to owe the U.S. government taxes.
That's my point. Uncle Sam.
But that's why people.
But you see, these rich people would never do that. What they would do is you know, if they wanted to sell that painting, they would take it, they would move it to a Freeport. They would put it in that Freeport and store it. Then they would sell it to somebody. And that somebody would then, you know, purchase it from that Freeport, not have to pay any taxes on it. And then they can pick it up and they can take it to their house or whatever. Because it wasn't sold within the United States. It wasn't sold within Britain. It wasn't sold within these jurisdictions where it could be taxed.
According to the law, you are American resident, and you made some income out of the country. When you bring that money in, don't you have to pay taxes?
Not on a Freeport, you don't.
Well, I hope you're right about it. Because Uncle Sam, huh?
That's like the people that buy liquor when they're on a cruise.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you pay
Duty free.
the liquor in, you pay taxes.
Not if you buy it on the ship. No, you don't.
Right. Yeah. And a duty
Well,
free.
I don't know, because I know in my chosen Mexican woman, she went to Mexico and she brought a lot of liquor. I said, what about taxes? She said, I pay it.
Okay, but here's the thing. She bought it in Mexico.
Uh-huh.
She didn't buy it in a duty-free shop or a Freeport.
Mm-hmm.
Like there are some airports in the world, right, that are Freeports. You could go in, like, you know, you could buy all of the Russian vodka that you could pack away. And if you buy it at this one location in that Freeport, you'll never pay tax on it. You'll never pay import, export, you know.
Mm-hmm. I know that here they control any money that you bring in.
Yes, they try very hard, you see. And here's a, you know, and this gets a bit off track, but here's the thing. You know, there's a lot of very wealthy people out there, you know, and, you know, any type of legislation, you know, to get them to pay taxes on a lot of their assets and wealth, they're going, you know, they have a whole army of attorneys that they can afford to help write that legislation, which will get them to not have to pay tax on it.
Mm-hmm. Because when I worked in here in the United States almost 50 years ago, I remember I had to make a list of everything that I brought with me, including cash.
Okay. So did you just happen to show up with a couple $100 million?
No, I brought with me only $20.
Exactly. Right. So you
But
see, you're just like the rest of us, and they are going to tax you every opportunity that they can get. Okay.
Yeah, that's what I asking you all this question.
Yeah. You see, I guess the long and the short of this is it's not a level playing field, right? And so, you know, there's different rules for different people in different stratas of wealth in society. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
On a different note,
Okay.
the sound quality was so bad, it irritated me.
The what was so bad?
The sound quality was poor on that.
Oh, was it?
Yes, it was. It was a very hit and miss. Because you're going through a couple of servers here by the time it gets to us.
Oh, okay. Well, I apologize for that.
What's the website again, please?
Well, it was YouTube, and
Don't you think some of those, some of the drug lords might use those free poor to try to bring money in here legally?
I would not put it past them. No, Bob, I
Yeah.
will. You know, I'll go back and I'll get a link for that
Thank you.
and send it out to
Appreciate that.
so that you can listen to it. Yeah, I didn't, you know, anytime that, you know, like the sound is real bad on something, let me know, you know,
Okay.
because I mean, it sounded perfectly fine to me.
Okay. Yeah, but see, you're getting it in through one speed
Right.
of internet, and it's being broadcast back to us
Yeah.
at some other speed.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So anytime we have any kind of issues like that, just let me know. Okay.
Okay.
And then I'll either send out the link or, we'll do something else. Okay. Like we're going to get and do something else now just for a few minutes. Okay. Because I want to introduce you to another artist. Now, this is not a famous artist. Okay. In fact, she's not famous at all. Okay.
Is this going to be a short film?
No, this is not going to be a film at all. We're just going to look at the work. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, and there's only about maybe 20 to 30 pieces of work.
Okay.
But I wanted to show you her work because she's a really, really creative person. Now, is she a professional artist? No. Does she make a living as an artist? No. Okay. But what she does is she's good as a photographer and working in Photoshop and doing artwork on a computer, right? And doing what we call collage pieces. She also does some physical collage type stuff. But, and most of her work kind of falls into, I guess, what you would call spiritual art. I think that's kind of the way she would sort of describe herself.
Niera Gans.
Niera Gans. Yeah, she's local. She's right here in Atlanta. And and this is some of her work, And she does a lot of it, She turns out a lot of work, Usually, a couple of pieces a week. And as you can tell, she's using combinations of, actual real media, with composited images, and Photoshop to kind of create these, the variety of images. And in particular, look at the composition and look at the use of color, but also her use of textures and surfaces and things are real interesting. So, and a lot of her pieces, I mean, they're really very
so the flowers on that are not paint, right?
Or not what?
Yeah, that's not paint. That's some flower.
No.
That's like a mix.
Right. Well, this is a photograph or a part of a photograph. Just like this butterfly wing was part of the photograph, but then she played with it, and kind of duplicated it, and then put it together with colors and things behind it.
Mm-hmm.
So she's taking, different images and things, combining them together. The same thing with whatever the texture of this is. It looks like maybe some wood or stone or something like that. It's got this very organic feel to it. And so she's manipulating all this stuff in Photoshop, and combining it together, different texture patterns. And, we've talked in the past about computers, and digital art as, a viable art form.
Yeah, that's a person I need to get to know.
But
her name is
Niera.
Niere. I'm looking at it. Niere G-A-N something.
Yeah, G-A-N-N-S. Gans. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Right. But again, she's taking all these different textures and patterns and things like that, and compositing it together, with maybe pieces of other artwork, like, I don't know, maybe she drew this, maybe she did the watercolor, maybe she found it, somewhere online, but she took this part and combined it with this and all the patterns and things and put it together to make a whole nother piece of artwork, right? See, same thing here, so there's different, there's a lot of layers, involved. And, it's like the more you look at some of these pieces, you find things from all over the place, and some are like three-dimensional, actual physical objects, some are, created artwork, some are graphic kind of patterns and things like that, different text, textures off of things that are either natural and or man-made. So working with things like this, you know, you can really be, you know, very creative with it and, you know, come up with, you know, some really, really engaging, you know, images. And as far as, you know, like a final product, you know, any of this stuff, because it's a digital file, can be printed. You know, it can be printed on a canvas or a coffee cup or a T-shirt or really anything, you know, that you want to print it on these days. But, you know, she's using a lot of, you know, kind of things from nature. You know, some, you know, man-made art pieces. So.
I found spiritual art, but fantasy art, but I didn't find her by her name.
Yeah, you probably, she doesn't have a web page about her artwork or anything. In fact, I've had conversations with her, many conversations about her. And she kind of sees herself, you know, not as an artist, you know, as a creative kind of spiritual person, but, you know, yeah, you know, she's not focusing on, I do art, okay. She kind of sees herself, you know, as, like I said, you know, some kind of like spiritual, you know, sort of, you know, being or person who just happens to do a lot of, you know, really kind of cool, fun, you know, Photoshop artwork. So yeah, you won't find her in galleries and museums. So, you know, it would be nice to see some of her work, you know, end up in places like that. And as time goes on, and as digital media becomes kind of more mainstream, you know, over like natural media, you know, I think you're going to begin to see, you know, a lot of this artwork, you know, that people are creating digitally, you know, you're going to see it in galleries and things more often. So. Anyway, so anybody got any thoughts about any of this? Like it, don't like it?
It's not the painting so much I like, cause it's like, but I like the idea that she's creating them digitally, you know, in Photoshop. I do like that, you know.
Okay. And why do you like that in particular?
Because because even now I take pictures that I have a family and whatever, and I put them. I take the pictures and put them in the background that I want them to be. And with hers, I see I can take it a lot farther than that. And just background, I can put what I think their thoughts are, what I think their demeanor is, you know.
Okay. Yeah, so, you know, I mean, as, you know, as a tool, right? You know, the computer could be really, you know, an interesting tool to use, and it opens up some possibilities, you know, for you to kind of create images that would be difficult to do just using natural media.
Now, she has these on YouTube or her own website?
No, no. She mainly posts these on Facebook.
Okay.
Yeah.
I went on Google. I found spiritual fantasy art.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
That's how I found some stuff.
Yeah, she's not the only one out there doing stuff like this. You know, I mean, there's, yeah, I'm sure there's lots of people out there doing, you know, things not exactly the same. And, you know, some are still using, you know, traditional media and approaches where others are using digital. So, yeah, I think there's anyway, I think that's, well, okay. Yeah, she also does like three-dimensional stuff. So, you know, she'll make clay pieces. Well, actually, there's the first one, and then she'll combine it with actual like old jewelry and stuff like that, and then you know, paint it and decorate it, you know, till she gets, you know, something like that. You know, she's a very you know, she's a very crafty, very creative sort of person, you know, and so, you know, she's got a kind of a wide range on things that she does, and always kind of surprising. You know?
I'm thinking that from the art that you showed us,
Mhm.
that she could create what they call an oracle deck. I think that would be lovely.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm, you know, she's kind of in like, you know, a whole different world over there, you know, and no, I'm serious. You know, I mean, in Atlanta, there's a huge community, you know, of, you know, sort of like non-traditional but spiritually oriented people, you know, that get together and have all kinds of events and stuff. And she's involved in all of that, you know, and
Okay.
yeah. And, you know, again, you know, it's like-minded people. And, you know, I've tried to encourage her in the past to actually, you know, take some of the images and stuff that she's creating. And, you know, she's got a market right there, you know, people who would buy that. And, you know.
You might find that art in a little 5-point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, she hangs out around Little 5 Points quite a bit every once.
I thought so. Okay.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. You know, the old hippie district, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. I've been there like in 2 or 3 years, but I would like to go there again and see. I like to see
what?
the shop. I don't buy anything, but I like to go in the shop and look at the stuff that they have.
Okay. All right. Anyway, but that was a little bit different, wasn't it? Okay.
Yes.
Not something you guys have seen before. Okay. See?
All right. See you.
My job is done.
Bye.
All right. So anyway, we will see you guys tomorrow at 2:00. It's Thursday.
Yep.
I won't be here.
Okay.
Come on, Jim. We need you.
I have a doctor's appointment.
Oh, okay. Well, hopefully everything comes out okay.
Hopefully.
Yeah. But you know, if you've got stuff that you want to send in, you know, send it in. We'll talk about it. Okay.
Okay.
All right. Thank you all.
Okay. Bye all.
Have a good rest of the day.
You
Bye-bye.
too.
Thank you, Charles. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye. Bye.
Thank you.